rice was made in Holland.
No, it wasn't. It was first cultivated in Asia about 8,000 years ago.
It is a brand, just like Nike, Dyson, Samsung, Rolex, etc. Therefore someone is making a profit from our lack of knowledge.
Seriously, someone can make a damn fortune from your lack of knowledge. It's not a brand name, it's a plant name. The English word for rice is over 800 years old. Yes, some producers hold a trademark on the particular variety of rice they produce, but not all rice. In fact, when Rice Tech patented the word basmati in the US, the Indian government flipped their lid and eventually all those patents were overturned.
Rice in its raw form looks and feels like plastic, because it is. It even returns back to plastic if you leave it out for a long period of time after being cooked.
On what planet does cooked plastic become edible and then turn back into plastic when left out? Before it's sold, rice is dried. This is so it doesn't go mouldy. And because rice grains are pretty small, they dry out quickly after being cooked, and again this means they tend not to go mouldy. If you were to keep the rice in a damp, warm environment, they would go pretty manky pretty quickly.
Rice contains cyanide and high levels of starch.
Rice actually contains arsenic, both organic and inorganic. It's the methods by which it's grown and stored that can cause it to accumulate. It's a natural substance and it's present in many foods. There are procedures and regulations in place to monitor this. I don't see a problem with starch though.
Starch is a chemical that the body converts to carbonic acid. When consumed, it destroys cells.
Ah, that's your problem with starch. Carbonic acid is a natural part of the digestive process. It's created by an enzyme and it's used in the creation of hydrochloric acid, which is used to digest our food.
Starch is the cause of mineral deficiencies.
No, lack of mineral intake or a difficulty absorbing minerals from food is the cause of mineral deficiencies.
Starch is not a food. It is a poison that is high on the glycemic index.
Starch is just a carbohydrate. It's the most common carbohydrate in our diets, and the GI index just relates to how much it affects blood sugar levels. The higher the number, the quicker the sugar is absorbed into the blood. It's not a rating of how toxic it is. Oh, and while we're on the subject, everything is toxic. It's the dose that makes the poison, not the chemical.
All types of rice, with the exception of wild rice, is a hybrid.
Wild rice is actually a different plant to normal rice. They're distant cousins, but normal rice is in no way descended from wild rice. And secondly, wild rice that's commercially available in shops is actually a hybrid developed in the 1950s.
When you boil wild rice or any other alkaline grain in a glass pot, you will see that they jump around inside the boiling water. Why? Because they contain carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. But when you cook any other rice, it just sits at the bottom of the pot, and doesn't move.
Wait, normal rice doesn't contain carbon, hydrogen and oxygen? But you already said that it was full of starch, which is a carbohydrate, which by very definition contains carbon, hydrogen and oxygen.
It is dead. Plastic has no life.
How do you kill that which has no life?
Correct, it doesn't, but you have no evidence that rice is made out of plastic, so that's meaningless. Now, the rest of this article goes on to list a selection of alternatives, along with a list of supposed health benefits. Most of these alternatives contain starch, by the way. It also includes a call to action to do your own research, which seems like a stupid thing to do because I've just done my own research and discovered most of the claims here are utter BS. I've been able to trace this electric alkaline food thing back to a chap called Dr Sebi. By the way, Dr Sebi is not a real doctor. He has no medical qualifications, and by his own admission, he didn't even go to school. So this Sebi fellow's been kicking around since the 1980s and has claimed that his alkaline diet and special herb mixes can pretty much cure all diseases, including cancer and AIDS. In essence, it's the modern-day equivalent of the four humours approach to medicine, and he currently runs multiple websites that will happily sell you his products. He was actually arrested in the 90s and put on trial for practicing medicine without a licence. Unfortunately, he was acquitted, which his followers claim is vindication and proof of the efficacy of his treatments, which it isn't. Back then, the legality of claims for dietary supplements were still being debated, and being found not guilty of practicing medicine without a licence is not proof that his claims were true, just that a jury didn't think he was practicing medicine. These days, due to tighter regulations on medical claims, he's changed tack and no longer claims to cure or prevent illness. He tends to just leave that to the supporters of his diet. He just makes vague claims about health benefits. Now, while there's nothing particularly wrong with the diet itself, it's basically just a load of fruit and veg, my issue comes when there's an implication that it can cure sick people. I don't care how many testimonials you have, if you have no peer-reviewed solid evidence then you have nothing, and if you have to prop your argument up with dubious claims, wild assertions and straight-up lies, then as far as I'm concerned you have no case at all.